A pleasant good evening to all our listeners and viewers who are joining us, whether you're here in St. Kitts and Nevis or abroad in the diaspora. We're quite happy to have you here with us this evening. My name is Jacqueline Bryan and I'm your moderator here on Leadership Matters, which is an interactive program hosted by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. He hosts this program regularly so that he can update you on matters of national interest, and he's usually joined by special guests which come from the civil service or the private sector rather, and they make themselves available to update you on the various sectors and take your questions, answer your questions, hear your suggestions, and interact with you. So, quite an engaging program, and this evening's program we will talk about topics that are quite relevant to the times we have with us. I usually would introduce the Prime Minister first, but I think I would let you know that we have with us this evening the Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazel Laws, the Chief Executive Officer of Tourism, Raquel Brown, and Superintendent of Police with the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, Cromwell Henry. So they are joining the Prime Minister this evening to talk about their respective areas, and the Prime Minister will give you a general overview of updates and things happening in the Federation, and there are so many things to update you about. We'll hear now from the Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. Dr. Harris?
Thank you very much, Jackie, and to my fellow citizens and residents. It is a pleasure to be able to host tonight's edition of Leadership Matters. Leadership Matters, of course, is well known as a popular interactive program in the best traditions of good governance and accountability. It allows everyone the opportunity to engage the leadership of the country and to be better informed on matters of public interest. It allows me as Prime Minister to hear from my beloved people, to better appreciate their concerns and consider any deficits in public policy implementation. I am always inspired to redouble my efforts to be of better service to the citizens and residents of my beloved country. Your feedback helps me to become better at serving and delivering to you. On tonight's Leadership Matters, I propose to address ongoing efforts to move St. Kitts and Nevis out of the shadow of the COVID-19 pandemic and to the stronger and safer future. We continue to experience continued progress in our economy. More persons have found employment. The tourism sector, hitherto the most severely hit of all sectors, is regaining its strength and buoyancy. While we are not yet at pre-COVID-19 levels, we can now see that light at the end of the tunnel. This last quarter is the best since we closed our borders in March in 2020. In 2021, we are recording significant increases in airlift into our country. All airlines, for example, American Airlines, British Airways, Caribbean Charters, Liat, Sky High, and other charters are now back and doing good business. About 60% of all arriving passengers are from the United States of America. 20% of the total arriving passengers are nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis. The good news is that tourism is coming back in a strong way. Today, for example, we had 3 cruise vessels dock at Port Sante, including the Enchanted Princess, making its inaugural visit and bringing 1,300 passengers. This means more jobs for taxi operators, more business, higher incomes, etc. We are grateful to God for these wonderful developments, yet we are mindful of the downside risk. COVID-19 is still the most significant challenge to our achieving double-digit growth. We must confront and overcome it. The IMF predicts that in 2022, our economy will grow by 10%. The extent to which our economy will progress depends on how quickly we contain this third wave of COVID-19 infection and continue to suppress the rate of transmission. Thankfully, the daily data of infection rates and recoveries point to the fact that as a country collectively we have contained this third wave. However, there is no room for complacency, as we can easily lose all the gains we have made so far. Keeping the virus contained is our individual and collective responsibility. It requires each of us to adhere to the non-pharmaceutical measures, that is the wearing of our masks, frequent washing of our hands, and avoiding crowds. The most powerful tool we have is the vaccine, as it significantly reduces the risk of us becoming infected, spreading the infection, and it also offers significant protection against severe disease, hospitalization, and death. If you choose not to get vaccinated, your only means of protection are the non-pharmaceuticals, but you will become most vulnerable as we move to fully reopen the economy and country. We began our vaccination rollout on February 22nd this year, and in just 10 months, we have made significant progress, and for this our citizens and residents should be justly proud. The vast majority of us have done the right thing to protect ourselves. St. Kitts and Nevis became the first country in the sub-region to reach the World Health Organization minimum threshold of 40% of its population fully vaccinated. At the close of Clinic Today, Tuesday, 23rd November, the Federation has 79.7% of our adult population having taken their first dose, and 73.3% now fully vaccinated. We have one of the highest vaccination rates in the region. If we disaggregate the numbers between our two islands, we see that St. Kitts has a significant 84% of all adults here having received their first shot, and a significant 76.2% fully vaccinated. In contrast, St. Nevis, 67.8% of adults have received their first dose, and 64.6% are fully vaccinated. I would like to see even more persons at Nevis becoming vaccinated. And my hope for St. Kitts too is that we push further to achieve near 100% coverage. More work needs to be done as we push forward with our vaccination program to achieve an overall first dose coverage in the Federation of 80% among our adults. While the Federation as a whole has made great progress without mandating vaccination, as several countries have, including the United States of America and the United Kingdom, we cannot rest on our laurels. As we move into December and then the winter season 2022, we will have a greater influx of visitors, and despite our stringent entry protocols, there is the possibility that the Delta variant will enter our jurisdiction, as it is in wide circulation in our main source markets. We can therefore anticipate a fourth wave, but we are not helpless. We can make the fourth wave less severe, less prolonged, and less deadly if all who should be vaccinated get vaccinated. And that is why I am warning against complacency, and I am encouraging every adult and every student above 12 years to get vaccinated. I appeal to our frontline workers, for example, our police officers, our crossing guards, our nurses, fire officers, security personnel, health emergency technicians, teachers and teaching assistants to get vaccinated. I appeal also to our sportsmen and sportswomen to protect themselves, protect those to whom they have a duty of care. Our health experts have advised us that achieving 80% coverage among adults in our federation will give us a significant buffer to absorb more risks and therefore safely open our economy without putting a significant strain on our health system. We can reach 80% if you come out in your numbers and get vaccinated. The truth is, we are almost there. It is within reach. If we achieve this major milestone in our vaccination coverage, we can see the following. 1. The barriers at Port Sante being removed. The barriers are erected principally to protect our citizens and residents. The high vaccination coverage will provide an immunity barrier against COVID-19 instead of the physical fencing barrier. Port Sante then will become accessible to all. Security officials will ensure compliance with mask wearing and other non-pharmaceutical measures. Restaurants, businesses, outlets, and offices must of course enforce the protocols. The removal of the barriers at Port Sante will allow greater business activity and wider access to goods and services to all at Port Sante. More businesses will share in the increase in commercial activity. This, of course, will lead to more job opportunities. 2. All vaccinated tourists arriving, whether by cruise or air, can then have access to COVID-19 approved sites like Brimstone Hill, Caribel Batik, Black Rocks, to name a few. Entertainers will be able to undertake mass events for fully vaccinated persons with 75% space capacity. Fourthly, a negative PCR test will remain the standard for persons to enter the Federation, but we can see the removal of all quarantine and testing requirements for arriving passengers 12 years and over who are fully vaccinated. This will be a significant economic development as the vaccinated visitors will have the ability to integrate immediately in our community. The fifth important development is that we will be able to reduce the quarantine period for unvaccinated or partially vaccinated persons from 14 days to 9 days. This measure will assist our elderly citizens to return home, undergo a shorter quarantine period, while at the same time reduce the risk to our people. In other words, we are moving in a phased way to relax restrictions as we achieve higher levels of vaccination. Reaching the 80% adult population immunity coverage will allow us to ease more of the entry restrictions and improve our competitiveness as a tourist destination. The results will be even higher arrivals, more jobs for our people, higher incomes, and more opportunities for all. We are recognized as a model country in our careful response to COVID-19, making hard decisions when needed to save lives, protecting our people, and easing restrictions in a responsible way to put our economy back on track. We are doing the right things at the right time and in the right way. We are taking a comprehensive view of our situation and following the science and the data. We have consistently acted responsibly. Let us continue to work together in unity to consolidate and expand our gains in this difficult fight against COVID-19. I want now to turn to some other sectors of our economy. Our construction sector is receiving a boost as Ramada continues work on phase 2 of their 300-room residential facility. Housing projects soon to be started, such as those by Daniel and Associates and other nationals, will spur job creation in the construction sector, put more men and women at work, thereby driving further economic activity in St. Kitts and Nevis. Other significant projects being undertaken include Plaza 2 of the Royal St. Kitts Hotel, better known as Draktar, the TDC Dewars Residential Project, and Hillsborough Suites. These are all progressing well. Tonight I am joined by the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, Ms. Raquel Brown, CEO of the Tourism Authority, and Superintendent of Police, Mr. Cromwell Henry. I welcome them all, and I trust that you'd find this edition of Leadership Matters most informative. Finally, I wish to say thank you. Thank you to my beloved people of St. Christopher 7 for the 28 long years they have invested in me as their parliamentary representative. I thank them for the unique privilege and honor to be of service. And beyond my constituency, I wish to thank all the good citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis for their faith in me and for allowing me a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to serve this country and people whom I love so much. Thank you, and may God continue to bless us all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. We'll now hear from the Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazel Laws.
Thank you, Jacqueline, and a warm good evening to everyone. In the Federation, we have been responding to the COVID-19 outbreak for almost 2 years. The COVID-19 pandemic is unprecedented and extremely complex. It has affected the health system, the education system, the economy, and social life as we know it in the Federation. This period has been unpredictable and unsettling. A few days ago, my mother looked at me and asked, "Hazel, when will COVID end?" I pondered. The scientists are still trying to answer this question, along with predicting what will happen in 2022 and beyond. For us to emerge from this crisis successfully, we must aim to prevent and mitigate the impact of future surges of COVID-19 infections. We have gone through 3 waves of infection or surges so far. The health system worked assiduously. The health team worked assiduously to contain the 3rd wave, which started in early August by implementing the relevant public health and control measures. To date, we have reported 2,774 confirmed cases of COVID-19. 2,716 of these cases have recovered, and we are presently monitoring 30 active cases. There is only 1 individual diagnosed with COVID admitted at the Alexandra Hospital in Nevis, and to date, we've only counted 28 COVID-19 related deaths. Majority of the cases were unvaccinated. The cases who died were mainly older adults, unvaccinated, and had underlying medical conditions. Based on our local data, The unvaccinated in our society are vulnerable and at risk of contracting COVID. Regarding testing, on November 5th, the Ministry of Health sent off a package of 6 samples to Caribbean Public Health Agency for genomic sequencing. 5 samples returned positive for the Lambda variant, and 1 sample returned positive for the Delta variant. The case was identified with the Delta variant, was isolated, and tested negative on November 13th, prior to release from isolation. So in essence, this one case was contained and the case was fully recovered before being allowed to integrate in our society. The Lambda variant is the variant in circulation at present. On February the 22nd, the Federation launched a successful COVID-19 vaccination program. In 9 months, we have achieved the following coverage rates. 79.7% of the adults in our population covered with the first dose, and 73.3% of the adults are fully vaccinated. 13.6% of our children have received their first dose, and 11.3% are fully vaccinated. In the Federation, 52.4% of the total population is fully vaccinated. A few months ago, we determined that the critical threshold of 80% coverage rate amongst our adults would automatically trigger further relaxation of our health and travel protocols, as previously outlined by our Honorable Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, we are almost there. The current situation on the ground is favorable. However, this is not the time for complacency. We are not yet out of the woods. The pandemic is ongoing. Let's look at our neighboring islands in the Eastern Caribbean. Barbados, Grenada, Dominica are experiencing outbreaks as we speak. Further afield, we note that cases are surging in Europe. Europe is once again the epicenter of this pandemic. The SARS-CoV-2 virus is circulating and can be reintroduced into our federation during the Christmas and Carnival season, with the expected influx of travelers. So what steps can we take to prevent and mitigate the impact of a 4th wave? Here are some of the steps that we can take. 1, the COVID-19 vaccine is the best weapon we have to fight this virus so far. We must strengthen and continue our vaccination program that has been so successful. The Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education will be organizing mass vaccination drives, targeting teenagers in our secondary schools. We want to use this forum to encourage our parents and guardians to be receptive and provide consent for your child to be vaccinated. Vaccinating our teenagers will create a safer school environment and ensure face-to-face engagement and learning. 3, we want to actively target and empower unvaccinated persons who are working in high-risk sectors, like within the hotel and tourism industry and even in the health sector. We are hoping that these persons recognize their vulnerability, come forward and accept the vaccine. Unvaccinated persons working in these settings can easily pick up the virus, take it home, and into our communities. The 2nd wave started like this, and I'm hoping we are learning from that experience. 4, we want to actively encourage the vulnerable in our population to take the vaccine. And I'm specifically referring to our older adults who have underlying chronic medical conditions like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, etc. 5, we want to encourage all of society, everyone. We want everyone to come on board and adhere to the COVID-19 prevention and control measures, especially at this time as we approach Christmas. These measures include wearing the face mask, which helps to slow transmission, maintaining adequate hand hygiene, and physical distancing. I want to use this forum to reach out to the patrons of the various carnival events to recognize the value of these measures and adhere to them. The best science does support mask wearing as a valid strategy to reduce the risk of COVID-19. The risk of the fourth wave is real. Let us do all we can to prevent and mitigate its impact on our society. The experts predict that 2022 will be brighter than 2021 for countries like ours that are well vaccinated. Let's press on with our vaccination program. There is light at the end of this pandemic tunnel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laws. We'll now hear from the Chief Executive Officer of Tourism, Raquel Brown.
Good night, Jackie. Good night, everyone. You know, it's quite a long time that the tourism industry has had quite a bit of bustle. And over the last 3 weeks, we have seen how cruise tourism specifically has brought energy back to the Federation. We have seen more and more persons go back to work, more and more tour operators, taxi operators, bars, restaurants, merchants, stakeholders who are selling retail, who are selling souvenirs. Yes, it has not been perfect. Yes, it is not what it was in 2019. The most important thing, however, is that we have restarted and we've rebuilt tourism. We started off much stronger on November 1st when we had the first week of November Tourism Month, when we had 3 calls that specific week. Remember in July 23rd when we just had Seabourn Odyssey that was anchoring in South Friars. Last week, it was a tremendous achievement for St. Kitts and the Federation when the Oasis class vessel Allure of the Seas returned to St. Kitts. Tomorrow, we will have Harmony of the Seas, the 3rd newest ship for the Oasis class. Many probably don't remember, it was about 4 years ago that we had the inaugural. But the vessel is back and it's returning to St. Kitts tomorrow. These are achievements for the Federation and we should be quite proud. As it speaks to airlift, we're moving forward and most persons will be made aware that we have put in place airlift to support the winter season, which specifically usually starts before Thanksgiving and it goes towards the end of April. We have our airlines such as American Airlines with its daily flight and in could you go back? Yes, thank you. And when between December 18th and January 2nd, we have a second flight out of Miami. This is really a strong testament to the destination. I know it was very hard for us when we only had Wednesday and Saturday and Sunday flights. However, we were able to generate demand and we were able to ensure that our forward bookings showed strength. We have Air Canada returning on December 19th. We had Delta that returned this Saturday from Atlanta. Of course, we have our regional carrier Leah that continues to provide service to connect us to the region. British Airways resumed in October. United Airlines is going to be returning on December 18th with their Saturday flight, and they will continue into April. And of course, Seabourn out of Puerto Rico. This is not a small achievement for the destination. We have quite significant airlift. Yes, our hoteliers will always say we need more. However, we are coming through a pandemic and we also have to remember that we have to manage this process carefully and to ensure that we do have our airline carriers and they are producing not only for them but they're producing for us. Next slide, please. In relation to cruise, as we move forward, we have today 31 calls in total, and we are going through a process where weekly we have 2 or 3 ships. When we looked at Port Zante back in September and October, it looked very dismal, and we can understand that because it is so significant to the economy what cruise can do. Next slide, please. We know that we've had a few struggles with our independent operators, our taxi operators. The situation in relation to cruise returning has not necessarily been what they're accustomed to, and we can understand that. It's been very frustrating because for many of them, they have not worked for over 19 months. Last week, Wednesday, we met with the cabinet and the presidents of the 3 taxi associations, and we also had a meeting on Monday at 8:30 before cabinet, and we did come to an agreement, and we did agree on specific dispatching procedures. However, we're still waiting. We came to a final decision at the end of the meeting. However, there's one final negotiation that we do have to work out, and Minister Grant along with his team will be speaking to the taxi presidents. But I would like to say that it is going to be very transparent, it is going to be fair. Yes, we will have our presidents under the different statements that were made. They will be back to work with the Tourism Authority in relation to dispatching. However, it is going to be a process as we return to where we came from in terms of having increased persons coming to the Federation by cruise. So if we take a quick look, we can see that we basically had up to yesterday 30,052 persons arrived to the destination. If we looked at 5 months in 2019, it was probably close to 150,000. So yes, cruise is returning. The numbers don't necessarily speak to what some persons say. We've had a situation where some ships, specifically the Celebrity Silhouette and most recently the Celebrity Millennium, there was miscommunication on the ship in relation to St. Kitts and the type of process that we have in relation to persons who are allowed to come off. Everyone is allowed to come off, enter Port Zante. They're independent tours. However, there's been miscommunication. We have sorted it out with both Celebrity Cruise Line and also Royal Caribbean Group. So we know that tomorrow will be much more successful than it has been for Celebrity Apex when it has been in port. We've had four inaugural calls by no small achievement. It is not easy to get a new ship, to make its inaugural sail. And St. Kitts on the 25th of October, we started with the Orion, Viking Orion. Then we had the Celebrity Apex. And the Celebrity Apex is the edge class specifically for the Celebrity brand. It's the highest vessel, and it's quite a vessel. Aida Perla was here last week, and just today we had the Enchanted Princess. It's not a small achievement for us to be doing this. There are many destinations that are known for getting million visitors, cruise visitors every year, and they're still awaiting to have an inaugural call. And so we need to be quite proud of our achievements and what St. Kitts and Nevis is achieving. As I said, the Harmony of the Seas will be here tomorrow. It is an Oasis class ship. If anyone has ever been on an Oasis class ship, you will understand that it's the ultra mega ship. It has all of the amenities that many ships have. And 4,000 persons will be coming on this vessel tomorrow, in addition to around 1,800 with the Celebrity Apex. It will be a very busy day tomorrow, and we're really asking all of our stakeholders, even if you are not in the travel approved bubble vaccinated site, to really work with us to ensure that everyone adheres to our rules and our protocols. We are asking all our taxi and tour operators to ensure that we stick to the protocols. This is very important because every time St. Kitts has a success of a vessel call and we don't have an outbreak related to cruise or an increase in cases because of cruise, it is a success for the destination, and it is a success for all of us in the Federation. So as we look forward to December, It's going to be a very tiring month for the team at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority. We only have 3 days with no ships. It's kind of what we've been used to in previous years. There's a 6 cruise ship day, but I'd like everyone not to panic when we say 6 cruise ships. We have a pier. We have 2 piers at Port Zante that can take 4 ships, and there are also 2 ships that usually tender. They're quite small. They're more like yachts, and they will tender in the marina. I want to remind everyone that there was a day, I believe in 2016, that we had 7 ships, and we really had big ships in the destination. So yes, we're in COVID, but I believe all of us are a team, and we're achieving great things for the destination. You know, it's very important that we understand that this process has not been easy. It has been very difficult along the way. We've gotten this far, and it's been to the success of everyone in the Federation. So quickly, I would just like you to see what December looks like. Quite a lot of ships from the 1st. You know, we'll have this already sent out to all of our stakeholders. And this is the last slide. So we have 58 calls at this point in time. And we do have an inaugural on the 22nd, Sky Princess, another Princess Cruise Line vessel. And so, you know, it's not by a small achievement that we're making this work. For every successful call that we have, more ships will come. We are working with our hoteliers in all of our source markets. We have promotions in the United States and in Canada and in the UK. And we're looking towards a very promising January to March, first Q1. Just because we started off a little late in terms of our 24-hour quarantine, but we are very competitive in the market for the very early winter season. And so at this time, I would just like to say thank you to everyone who has made this possible for us to rebuild tourism. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Ms. Brown. We'll now hear from Superintendent of Police with the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, Cromwell Henry.
Thank you very much, Jackie, and a pleasant good night to all listening to this broadcast via whatever means. I must begin by saying thank you to the Honorable Prime Minister for affording me the opportunity to share this platform again with him to lend support, law enforcement support, to the efforts to keep our country safe in the context of COVID-19. But before I get into my presentation, I would like to update you on the missing person investigation that the police is currently engaged in. On Thursday, 19th October, a missing person report was made at the Stapleton Police Station. Our investigation so far has revealed that the missing person, Jesse Lee, who resides at Lime Keel, left his home at about 8 p.m. on November 18th and got into a waiting rental car with another person. He has not been seen since. Several persons were interviewed and a number of joint operations involving officers from the Stapleton, Bastille, Keon police stations, CID, SSU, Drug Unit, and the St. Kitts Nevis Defence Force, as well as family members and friends of Jesse Lee, were conducted. The areas searched include the mountains in St. Peter's, Bearfords, Keon, and surrounding areas. To date, nothing to help the investigation was found. The searches will continue while we continue to interview persons who may have useful information. I would like to make an appeal to anyone who may have any information that could aid us in this investigation to call the Stapleton Police Station at 465-2418. I want to assure the public that we are not treating this investigation lightly, and we are doing all within our means to bring this matter to a closure. We just ask that you support our efforts and provide assistance, as we cannot do it by ourselves. Now for my presentation. Well, last Wednesday, the chairman of the COVID-19 task force announced that when the new iteration of the emergency powers regulation was published, the provisions for the nightly curfew will be removed from the regulations. And true to form, the new regulations came into effect the following day, on November 18th. These regulations will expire on December 2nd. As promised, the provisions requiring residents to remain at their home during certain hours, as well as the provision requiring businesses to close at midnight, were removed. This was the only provision that was removed at this time. All the other provisions, including the COVID-19 protocols for businesses and social activities, remain. We are still required to observe all the non-pharmaceutical COVID-19 prevention measures, the social and physical distancing protocols, the hygiene protocols, and the wearing of masks when in public. Restrictions on social events are still in place. All social events with more than 24 persons in attendance require permission in writing from the Commissioner of Police. We continue to grant permission, however, to these activities, but you are expected to adhere to the conditions stipulated in the permission so that you avoid law enforcement action. We have said all along that there will be a gradual easing of restrictions as our situation improves, and we are doing just that. We ask that you be patient and bear with us. As we approach an important milestone of 80% of adults with at least one dose of an approved vaccine, you will see further easing of some of the restrictions when we reach this milestone. I therefore encourage those who have not yet taken that step to protect themselves with the vaccine to do so now. We know that the vaccination reduces your risk of contracting the virus, thereby permitting us to further ease restrictions as more people become vaccinated. In closing, I wish to remind you that the pandemic is not yet over. While our borders are fully open, the threat remains active. We therefore have to continue to balance protecting our health and lives with everything else. We cannot throw caution to the wind at this time and be reckless. We have to be measured in our actions and ensure that we do all not to lose, and be sure that we do not lose all the gains or any of the gains that we have made so far. I will stop here and look forward to the discourse later on in the discussion. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Superintendent Henry. And that discourse comes up after we take a short break. But before we do that, allow me to share with you the numbers so that you can participate in the program. And this is the part of the program that I really look forward to when we hear from our listeners and viewers about your concerns and have the panelists answer your questions. So if you want to participate by calling in, you can dial several numbers, and they are 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and the international line is 1-239-645-4500, and those numbers are listed at the bottom of the screen for your convenience. Now, if you want to send a WhatsApp message, you can also do that by sending it to 661-5683, that's 661-5683, or 660-7168, that's 660-7168. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be looking forward to hearing from you.
This is only just the start.
I know better is coming.
We are ready.
I am ready too.
We are cool.
After 17 months break from cruise ships to our port, it's a pleasure and a privilege for me to welcome these ships back to our shores. So I'm indeed happy.
Working in tourism allowed me to provide for myself and my family.
It is our pleasure to offer services to our taxi and tour bus operators. I need you as much as you need me.
I am happy to be working again as I've done in the past to provide for my family in cruise tourism.
Cruise is back. We have to do our part. Together we are Cruise.
Welcome back to Leadership Matters, which is hosted by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. And this evening, his special guests are the Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazel Laws, the Chief Executive Officer of the Tourism Authority, Raquel Brown, and Superintendent of Police with the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, Cromwell Henry. My name is Jacqueline Bryan, and I'm your moderator this evening. And this is the point at which we open the phone lines to take your calls. But just to note that during the break, you were seeing highlights from the Dubai Expo that was held recently, and the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis sent a delegation there, and we participated in that expo. We had a whole setup with a booth and cultural performances, and from what I understand, they did our country proud. So just to let you know that that's what you were watching during the break. We're now going to go straight to the phone lines so we can hear from you. We'll take our first caller for this evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening to the panelists, the Prime Minister and his panel. And Mr. Prime Minister, I want to thank you again to continue updating us with things in the country where we're not in cabinet to hear about. Now, what I want to say about what Zante, well, Miss Brown, she passed me at that time. She see how much people in my bar, sometimes none, sometimes two. One time we had about 6 or 7, right? And the problem was, there is nothing wrong with the fence, you know. The problem is that the people them who was vaccinated and we put pressure on them to vaccinate, they could not come into Port Zante. And to do no shopping and to do buy nothing and so on. I see a woman cry the other day. She bring 4 children and 5 children from Nevis to come buy shoes at Palace. And that woman beg and tell them to come down on the lounge and so on, and they tell her she can't come in, she can't. Palace, from my place to Palace is only 2 steps. And you had 4 security personnel there, just there laughing and drinking and so on and talking. Well, let's say drinking, I mean alcohol. You know, they do talking and so on. Which one of them could have go to Palace with the woman, let she get the shoes and them and go back to Nevis. You know, but what I made to understand today, that the people have access to Port Zante. What I think the Prime Minister needs to do is go to Nevis and send his colleague and them to Nevis where they make fence and put a proper fencing down there. There's nothing wrong with the fence. The fence is a safe security for everybody. But people should be vaccinated, could be able to come in. Who are vaccinated, let us stay out. Because you're tired, beg them to go and vaccinate, and they don't want to do it. So you got to let them feel some of the pressure. No. And for Mr. Cromwell, some of your security forces you got down there in the blue and different thing, they're not vaccinated. Why you allow them to down there and they're not vaccinated? You know, I don't think it's right. And what I can say to the Dr. Mr. Laws, continue the good work you're doing and everybody on the island of St. Kitts and Nevis, praise the work what you're doing.
Okay, well, we seem to have lost that caller, but thank you so much for opening the batting and sharing that with us. On some of the things you said, some of the panelists would like to provide some clarity. I believe Ms. Brown would like to provide some clarity on some of the things you said. I don't know if Superintendent Henry would also like to provide some clarity. Okay, so before we proceed and take any additional calls, we'll just provide some clarity on some of the things that was shared.
Yes, so Port Zante is now open to fully vaccinated individuals who would like to access Port Zante to go to the bars, the restaurants, or to do their retail shopping. The circular that went out this morning, it went out at 6 a.m. this morning and again at about 9 o'clock, educating and allowing everyone to know that it was now accessible. You do need to have a copy of your vaccination card on your phone or in your hand and an ID. We are now allowing persons into Port Zante. In fact, today I saw a few of our local persons, stakeholders and regular persons in Port Zante by Cheers Bar. So I'm a little concerned, but we will get more PSAs out tomorrow and for the rest of the week to let everyone know once you're fully vaccinated, you're allowed to access Port Zante by the 5 points of entry into Port Zante.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Superintendent Henry?
In relation to the allegation that the island constables, they are not vaccinated, I'm not certain where.
And the island constables will be the persons in blue.
Constables are the persons in blue.
Yes.
They are responsible for security at tourist sites, and one of the requirements is that all those persons who are working at these sites be vaccinated. So those who are not vaccinated, they are not assigned to any of the tourist sites. So any island constables that we have on our detail that are not vaccinated, they do not work at tourist sites. So I could assure you, Mr. Rock, that all the island constables, all the officers who are assigned to Port Zante or any of the other tourist sites are vaccinated.
Thank you so much for providing clarity on that as well. And I'd also like to just indicate we have quite a number of persons on hold, so I would encourage you to keep your responses or your questions, your comments, whatever it is you're sharing with us, as brief as possible so we can take as many calls as possible. So thank you so much in advance. We'll go to the phone lines and take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good night.
Hi, good evening.
Let me say welcome back to the program. It's been a little vacation. To the Prime Minister, let me start with you. Thank you for allowing this program, Leadership Matters. It seems as though me calling in as Buckgate Media not rubbing well with a lot of persons, and it seems as though I might lose out on certain things because of that. But you have given the whole country the opportunity to call in, and I'm doing so. Now, thank you for the opportunity that you have given St. Kitts and Nevis in Dubai. Job well done. Now, you are celebrating 28 years. What are some of your greatest accomplishments, and what can we see from you, or what can we expect from you during your tenancy in office? Now, Dr. Laws, welcome back. They said you left. You went on a little vacation, and I was a bit scared. So I'm happy that you returned to the island and to the Ministry of Health. Now, maybe in the briefing, in the Wednesday briefing, NAOC, maybe it will be good if you could give us a breakdown, because the government holds a large amount of persons in government. So what I would like to see is a breakdown of how much persons in each department are fully vaccinated. So at least we can know, well, hey, there are some chances that some persons need to be working, so we can get 80 and above. Now to Mr. Cromwell, now when can we see entertainment being allowed in terms of these bars like on the Strip and over Port Zante, just for small entertainment, seeing that we are gradually opening back up the country in terms of tourism? And to Raquel Brown, good job in terms of monitoring the tourism. Persons are happy now that we who are fully vaxxed are now able to go to Port Zante. And definitely you can count on Buckgate Media once I get the information to put it out that you have a good leadership in the Prime Minister and we're going forward. This is Buckgate, over and out.
Thank you so much for participating in the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Ms. Jacqueline Boyan, I have to commend you for 1 year's performance in hosting this program. Congratulations to you and the Prime Minister.
Thank you.
Yeah, and good evening, Mr. Prime Minister and Ms. Brown and Mr. Henry.
Good evening, Radical Culture.
Right, and Mr. Prime Minister, I want to congratulate you on your 28 years of service in politics to the Federation. God bless you on the journey and continue, because you're getting close to the end. You have done a great job. Now I have a question and a suggestion. My suggestion is that I do not know what the penalties are for people who break the law, especially with guns, illegal guns. Well, whatever the penalties are, well, I am putting on some more penalty on that. What I would love the lawmakers to do, to carry up the penalty high and heavy and hard, and anyone who decide to keep an unlicensed weapon on them. And the government should have an amnesty to bring in all illegal weapons. And after that amnesty ends, there come down the heavy penalty on them, that they would tell others the consequence of having an unlicensed gun is so heavy, so you should not have one. That's my suggestion on that. Now, Mr. Prime Minister, back to you. You have led this country from the front. A leader should be at the front and not at the rear. Now you have to go to Dubai and other business out there on the country's behalf. And you did the correct thing, what the Constitution requires. You turn over the responsibility of leading the country to the Deputy Prime Minister, which is the Honorable Sean Richard. Thank God for that. That shows that you are a great leader and not a follower. So those people now who want to say that you do not know what you are doing, I hope that they would come out and speak and show leadership matters. The last thing now, about the prison. I want to know who has the last say when it comes to the prison. If it's the Minister of National Security or the Superintendent of Prison. Because I don't think any Minister of Government should go in the prison and take out a prisoner and say, okay, you know what, come home by me, man, let's go to the strip and drink something. I don't think the minister has that power of authority to do that. I think that should come from the prison, superintendent of prison, and no one else is bigger than him when it comes to the prison. May God bless everybody in the team. Wonderful team, and I'm listening. Continue to listen. Thank you all very much.
And thank you so much for for participating in the program and for your congratulatory message. Thank you. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Hello, good night. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Yeah, hello, good night to everybody. Good night to the Prime Minister. Good night to the officer. Good night to the lady from tourism. And good night to the CMO. My question is for the CMO. Madam CMO, one of my friends who is a university student in Miami, she's looking to come home in December. So the question I have for you is, she's fully vaccinated, but she's arriving on a Saturday. And with the 24 hours quarantine, does the 24 hours run from the Saturday, or does it start on the Monday? Because the reason why I'm asking is somebody told me that the labs are closed on the Saturday, so she'll have to book a hotel for the Saturday, the Sunday, and then on the Monday she'll get tested and released on the Tuesday. So if you could provide some clarity on that for me, it would really help. We're wondering if she comes on the Saturday, if she does 24 and come out on the Sunday, or would the 24 hours start on the Monday when labs open? I'll listen offline for the response. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for your question. I've made a note of it. She's made a note of it as well, and it will be addressed. Thank you. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. Hello. Hello, good evening. You're live. Hello. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
You're live.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Yes, this message is for all of you there, especially Prime Minister. Prime Minister, we have 3 beautiful women on stage tonight with you. I want you to check the camp. They are abusing those women up there who choose not to be behind desks and in kitchens to serve our country. From the captain to the cook, they are assaulting our women. Please, Prime Minister, look into it. We have one, we capture one, and he's on bail. I can't talk about that because the case is pending. But there is more cooks in the camp. Good night, officer, and good night, Prime Minister and ladies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that. Those are some very serious allegations there being made, sir. And so moving forward, I'd just like to caution our callers when calling in about matters of such a sensitive nature and to consider whether or not this is the forum to do so. But I acknowledge your concern in the matter. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Good night, Jackie.
Hi, good evening.
Good night, everyone. Mr. Prime Minister, congratulations on your 28 years of serving the people with distinction and honor. Long live Team PLP. You is a good leader. Have a blessed night, Mr. PM. Love you from number 5 constituency, Janice.
Thank you so much for participating in the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello?
Hi, I can hear you.
Hi, yes, good evening. This is Carlton Carl Lester Buchanan here from Sandy Point. I want to say a pleasant good evening to one and all. But a special good evening to the Prime Minister, the Honorable Timothy Harris. Mr. PM, you're doing a wonderful job. I never see a leader like this before in my 43 years. This is the best I ever see. And you show yourself in a pandemic. You did well, Mr. PM. And I also want to ask you a question, PM. I would like to know how you, as the Prime Minister of the Federation, St. Kitts and Nevis, could still find time to go to church, to all the churches them every Sunday. Still you have your hand full with overseas and regional and international affairs. The pandemic, you still got your community you see on a one-on-one on Saturdays and Sundays. You still do your health work. As the Prime Minister, I would like to know how you get all this done. You are a great leader, Mr. Prime Minister, and we'd love to see you for another 20, 25 years. You're doing a wonderful, wonderful job. I don't think nobody could do this like you, Mr. PM. You're the best. And everybody gonna agree with some of the things that you are doing, but I guarantee you, sure 90% of the people, good thinking people, could see you're doing a wonderful job. A wonderful job, PM, and we love that. My family love that. I love that. Keep it up, Mr. PM. Keep what you're doing. Keep it up. I listen now for you. Thank you, Mr. PM. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening to you as well, sir, and thank you so much for participating in the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Hi, good night to everyone on the panel, especially my Prime Minister. PM, I have a concern, a very big concern about the barrel searching in St. Kitts, because this is time for barrel searching. I mean, this is busy time now. So I understand that they are searching the barrels behind the customer back, and I have a big concern about that. So I think that you should go back to the drawing board and that they could go back and search a barrel in front of the customer. The same protocol that goes to the agent to come and search a barrel is the same protocol they can do for the customers, because the whole family is not going for the barrels. Secondly, I understand they have a backlog because the agent is not coming up in time or whatever. Right? Last year, all these years I've been sending out barrels, And last year I lost 5 bottles of this large dish liquid because when they take out the things out the barrel, they throw them down in any kind of how. So I'm very concerned about it. So can you please look through it and let them go back to the drawing board, because since we have to live with COVID, I think they could go back to something like either normal or something like normal. So please, because this is rush time, and I send on my barrels, I put on my lock on it and my tape, and I'm coming down that they could search it in front of me. So please, PM, and congratulations for the 28 years that you served me, and I'm looking forward to that you could serve me more, and my heart goes out to you. I always with you, PM. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for participating in the program, and we've noted your concern. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Night.
Good.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good evening. You're live.
This is going out for the PM. PM, I'm calling from number 7. You are the best. I come from Jamaica, and my Prime Minister is not like you. You are the best. Keep it up, Prime Minister.
Thank you so much for participating in the program. I think we can pause here now to take some responses to some of the questions and concerns that we've gotten. And if necessary, we can return to the phone lines. And I think we have a question about the entertainment sector and when small bars will be allowed to host activities along that line. Superintendent Henry?
Currently, the bars, they're operating. They have not been closed. They have been open for quite a long time. We just ask that they follow the protocols. I think you're asking when they will allowed to do more. As the Prime Minister would have indicated, once we would have reached that significant milestone of 80%, we will see further easing of the restrictions. And one of the things he indicated in those easing of restriction is that we would have vaccinated person attending entertainment events in larger numbers. Up to 75% of the capacity of the venue would be allowed for persons who are fully vaccinated. So there will be some incentive in getting vaccinated. You'll be able to have more patrons at the bars, and once persons are vaccinated. So that is something that we really would want to see persons do to reduce your risk of infection. We know that we are still in the pandemic, and so we still have to take every precaution, and the vaccine is one of such measures that you could take to protect yourselves.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Prime Minister. Congratulations on 28 years as the Member of Parliament for number 7. As I have a friend who says 28 years is not 28 days. And so we have a question asking what would you consider some of your greatest accomplishments during that time, and what are some of the things that we can expect to come? I don't know if you need some time to ponder on all of them, to select a few.
The last are going to be relatively easy, in that I would say our manifesto promises the stronger and safer future. And in that regard, most of the policy prescriptions for the future are laid out clearly in that, as they relate to houses, as they relate for infrastructure development, as they relate to renewable energies. All those are things that are in the manifesto. And so it's a helpful picture of what we want to accomplish for the country as a whole. The accomplishments have been many, but most importantly has been the ability to impact positively on the lives of the people, and to do it in such a way that people feel a sense of satisfaction and are moved to express their gratitude, and to let you know how important the contribution that you would have made would have been. I suspect when we span the 28 years career as a Member of Parliament, it means I would have seen the highs and the lows. I've operated firstly as a Member of Parliament in opposition from 93 to 95, and then as a Minister of Government from 95 until 2013, and then from 2013 to 2015 in opposition, and then 2015 to present as Prime Minister. So I've had my valleys and I've had my highs, and through it all I'd say God and the people have been wonderfully good to me. And so I think in large measure though, the highlight of my career, one of it, because truth be told, the people of Number 7 have never disappointed me. I've contested 7 elections, and each year they returned me with a handsome majority, the last one perhaps being the most successful. And they gave me, through that victory, the opportunity in 2015 really to lead the country as the Prime Minister, and to do so in a very difficult context, coming at the tail end of an administration that had been in office for 20 odd years, and therefore control every machinery of governance in the country at the particular moment in time. And so it was difficult settling in. What I would say was that my years of experience served me well and served the administration well. We were unique also in that for the first time in the history of the Federation, you had a government comprising 3 distinct parties. That of course meant that governance became more difficult to practice. Again, the experience of somewhat 19 years or thereabout in the government hitherto served me well, because by then I had learned the ropes and I had amassed a wealth of experience across all domains of government that suited me well as a leader to be able to manage what the electorate had given. A team unity government with 3 distinct parties, and therefore with different centers, if you will, of the concentration of power. And against all odds, something that I said had been unique, never happened before. We had had coalition in 1980, that was Pamina P, but we had never had a 3-party coalition with all the complexities that brings, and well known within the country. Nonetheless, we were able to do a successful job, and we were, by the 2020, it was clear that no other government has performed as well in their first term, both within the country and within the region. The result of that was that when we went to the poll, again in a difficult period of the pandemic, we were able to do successfully, and I was able to lead again the 3-party team to a decisive victory, the most significant victory, 9 of the 11 seats contested. We have never had at the federal level that kind of a margin, that kind of swing. So that is an outstanding accomplishment, and a lot of it really had come from the love that across the political boundaries the people had shown for me, their confidence in my ability to lead and to manage the affairs of the country in a very responsible way. And so I owe a debt of gratitude to the people. My support has always come from the people, from the very start to the end. I recall in '93 when I returned from Canada for vacation, and when the elections were called in November, I was a student in Montreal. By the time I had the elections were called, I was able to get here. I was just a couple of days before nomination day. It meant that the people carried me on their shoulders through that campaign. And so I will never, never forget the people of Number 7. They are like my extended blood family. They are my brothers, my sisters. And through all the difficult years, there are some names that stood out who were there. I remember the difficult period post the '93 elections when we were in crisis. It was William Phillip who was there and who carried me through those nights of curfew from destination to destination. I remember the women then, robust like Joan Mitchum and others, who were the warriors underneath my wing and who really guided me through the political ups and downs. And then in the difficult period post-2013, again it was the people. I could see them, their very face now, brave as they were, About 90% of them were civil servants, and they were determined that they will stick with Timothy Harris through thick and thin. And I owe them all for the rest of my life a debt of gratitude. So I say thank you with a sense of genuineness, and that is why, you know, I am inspired to do more. When Carlton asks how do I manage to do it, he reminds me of Lord Kodaksin, Doctor, how you get it do. And certainly it is done really with a love and a passion for service. It is done because I get satisfaction from doing what I do. It's not just a job, it's something that I feel validate me, validate my humanity. I feel that when people put their trust, as so many in Number 7 and in the country at large place their trust in me, it inspires me really to go beyond the call. And I thank God for his faithfulness towards me for over the last 20 years that allowed me, even in low moments, to feel high enough to go out and to do the people's job. And I myself at times don't know how I get it done, except for the mercies and goodness of God. So again, it's really an attitude of gratitude for all the wonderful things. And I look back and I said throughout my life, I've never had a bad moment. I've had moments of disappointment, but through it all, I've come to believe that never did a bad wind blow.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We have someone asking Dr. Laws about a breakdown of vaccines. I don't know if that's information you have. I wasn't clear on which department or area he was speaking about, but I think you're aware.
All right, so I want to thank Bucky for his recommendation in terms of sharing the breakdown of the vaccination status or coverage rates per department. I'm assuming he meant government department. I'm just making that assumption.
Okay.
Yes. But, you know, in the Ministry of Health, we are going to look into the COVID-19 database to see if this data is available and, you know, what we can share. He welcomed me back. I want to say I'm happy to be back at my desk and serving. Another caller referred to his child returning from university in Miami.
Yes.
Fully vaccinated, but I didn't get the date. Is it December the 25th? Did he say that?
I don't think he gave a date.
On a Saturday.
Yes. So the issue is whether or not the
labs we
open for them to get tested.
Okay, all right. So what I can say is that all the private labs are opened on Saturdays, including the JNF General lab. I want to also add that 2 of the 3 private labs are also open on Sundays. So NextGen started working or opening on Sundays as at last Sunday, November the 21st, and Avalon has been open on Sundays for a few weeks now. So if you come in on a Saturday, but let's back up. If you come in on a Saturday, you can get your exit sample taken, you know, as you land. You leave the airport and you can organize to get your sample taken within a few hours. That sample can be taken to the lab, and well within the 24 hours you are released from quarantine. So if you land on a Saturday, you can leave quarantine Saturday evening, Sunday morning.
So I think that's what they came back down to, if the quarantine would begin on the Saturday once his child arrived.
Yeah, but I'm adding that persons, if you land and you leave our RLB airport and you go to a hotel where you're going to be in quarantine, your sample is taken upon arrival at the hotel, and within 2-3 hours your sample result is back. Once it's negative, you are free to leave and integrate into the society. So persons are able to integrate into our society within hours, a few hours of landing, well within the 24-hour cut point.
Okay, so not only does it begin on the Saturday because the labs will be open, it can end
on the Saturday.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much for answering.
Well, let me add, based on what the Honorable Prime Minister shared, once we attain that 80% cut point, individuals who are fully vaccinated come into our destination. if you provide a negative RT-PCR test done within 72 hours of arrival. Once you arrive, and once we get to that cut point, you can integrate even without testing. So that's our goal. And so I want to use this forum in terms of persons coming on board to help us to achieve that cut point or threshold. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that additional information. Very, very useful. We have someone who called and asked who has the last say when it comes to the prison, if it's the Commission of Corrections or the Minister of National Security. And they also mentioned if the government would consider an amnesty for persons to bring illegal weapons in, and said that the penalties for having an illegal weapon in your possession should be increased. So I don't know if you would like to respond to that, Mr. Prime Minister.
But generally, in terms of who is in charge, the operational jurisdiction of the prison resides with the Commissioner of Prisons. Of course, he must work within the ambit of the law and within the ambit of the rules and regulations of the Public Service Commission. His reporting boss would be the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security. The law lays out clearly what is within the purview of the Commissioner of Prisons, and guided by the law, then he would be in good stead. Mr. Cromwell perhaps would address the issue of amnesty.
Well, amnesty is something that we've done in the past. And we've seen on one occasion we had up to 30 weapons that were taken off the street. So it is something that we've done in the past, and whether or not we'll do it in the future, that is a decision that the Commissioner would have to make. In terms of the penalty, I think is a maximum prison sentence up to 10 years a person could receive for possession of an illegal firearm. And if you think that should be increased, then so be it. But I think that penalty is severe, and we really would not want to see persons going to prison who just don't have a weapon, an illegal weapon.
Thank you so much for that. We have a question. Well, the lady is concerned that barrels are being searched without the customer being present. Can someone speak to that?
Well, that would be a customs function, and what I will attempt to do, since I don't have the details, will be to invite the Controller of Customs, Mr. Jomo Butler, to join us on one of these panels, or to be working for you, in which those matters could be more properly and fully addressed. But I've taken note of that, and it is something, as I said, which requires a response. So my commitment is that we will have the Controller of Customs dealing with this matter in a very frontal way shortly.
Thank you so much for that. And at this stage, we're going to pause to take a break, and when we come back, we'll check our WhatsApp messages to see what persons who have communicated via that forum. So don't touch that dial, stay tuned.
I know this is only just the start.
I know better is coming.
We are ready.
I am ready too.
We are Coos.
after 17 months break from cruise ships to our port, it's a pleasure and a privilege for me to welcome these ships back to our shores. So I am indeed happy.
Working in tourism allowed me to provide for myself and my family.
It is our pleasure to offer services to our taxi and tour bus operators. I need you as much as you need me.
I am happy to be working again, as I've done in the past, to provide for my family in cruise tourism.
Cruise is back. We have to do our part. Together we are cool.
Welcome back to Leadership Matters, which is hosted by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, and his special guests this evening are the Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazel Laws, the Chief Executive Officer at the Tourism Authority, Raquel Brown, and Superintendent of Police with the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, Cromwell Henry. My name is Jacqueline Bryan, and I am your moderator this evening. We were taking phone calls earlier, and now we're going to get into the messages sent to us via WhatsApp. And the first one asks about an allegation made. It has a name in it, but I will just get to what the allegation is. And they're claiming that cruise ship staff are telling tourists not to use local tours, only book cantors. Can you speak to that, Ms. Brown?
Yes, Jackie. I think over the last week, we've had a situation where there was miscommunication. There's been direction given by Minister Grant and myself to the cruise lines in relation to specifically the VPs of ShoreX, and that St. Kitts is a hybrid because there's some destinations that don't have persons coming off that are not vaccinated. There are destinations where persons are allowed to go and do only ShoreX tours. There are also destinations where persons are allowed to do independent tours. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we're in hybrid because everyone is allowed to come off the ship, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. And unvaccinated are persons under 12 years old, 11 and younger specifically. What has happened is that in the miscommunication, they were advising their ShoreX team, specifically I'd like to say to two vessels this week. It was this last week, Celebrity Equinox and Celebrity Millennium. And those specific vessels, Celebrity Millennium, which is a 2,218 ship, only had 500 persons. So the miscommunication did not help. And also when the Celebrity Silhouette came in, it was only around 1,000 persons for another 2,800 pack ship. So what happened, we were told by our staff that ShoreX was basically saying that guests could not, or guests were being told that they could only come off the ship if they had pre-booked tours. We have since corrected it. We have had meetings from last week Friday with both Royal Caribbean Group, which is the mother company for Celebrity Cruises, and also Celebrity Cruise Line, and we've made it explicitly clear what is to happen. I'd like everyone to know that for St. Kitts to be successful, it cannot be just ShoreX that is sold through Cantors and through Scenic Railway. We do well because we have independent tour operators that operate through the dispatching of the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, and also pre-booked independent tour operators that sell their tours online, for example, through Viator or through travel agents, or they may have their own websites. So yes, there was miscommunication with two specific vessels last week, and we have been working through the process, but I don't want to specifically say that they were saying that they could only do Cantors or specific tour operators. It was miscommunication, and we have updated the communication again. So for example, tomorrow when we have Harmony in port and also Celebrity Apex, we'll be watching very carefully on the ground to ensure that this is not repeated.
Thank you so much for addressing that matter. And I also wanted to go back to one matter raised by a caller that we did not address, were the allegations of abuse at the camp. Would you like to respond to that? Is there anything to say in that regard?
What I would say, wherever there is an allegation, it ought to be reported with somebody who has the evidence to the appropriate authority. And the appropriate authority in the case of a wrongdoing, a breach of law, the breaking of law would be the police. Otherwise, to the civilian channel, it will be to someone in a superior position to the person who is alleged to have committed some wrong or in any way would have broken the law. And so we would want everyone self-respect and dignity to be maintained, that the environment in which all our persons work, whether in the camp or outside the camp, that environment is a wholesome one where there is respect for the dignity and the rights of all employees to take place. The police, though, in terms of criminal activity, would be a good bet, and we have Superintendent Henry, who is much more knowledgeable on matters of law and criminal law in particular. I don't know if you will care to add anything with respect to procedures for redress.
Well, yes, anyone who is the victim of crime or anyone who has information that a crime was committed, we always encourage you to speak to the police, report it to the police, and we can assure you that once there is evidence, there will be an investigation and there will be a court hearing. So don't have any fear. You have evidence of a crime, report it to the police and we'll have it investigated.
For addressing that matter, we have someone who has asked 3 questions, but I'll ask them individually. Why is it that when it comes to Sugar Mass, only vaccinated people can participate in the different shows and so forth?
Okay, so that's a very good question. And the rationale behind that is it reduces the risk of exposure to the virus and an outbreak, given the very nature of the events, with crowds, etc. And so what we are saying is that for all events across the board, the entertainers should be vaccinated, and so too the patron spectators should be vaccinated. And that's all for safety for all involved.
Thank you so much. We have another question from this individual. Knowing the country has fully opened, can employees of manufacturing companies be free to move back and forth, or shouldn't the stipulations that have been set in place remove? I'm not quite clear on what they're speaking about, but maybe there's a policy in place regarding manufacturing companies I'm not aware of. Can anyone address that?
Just a general comment, since it's not clear what they are getting at, but they seem to be linking with the notion that the country is opening or has opened up. The country has opened up since the end of October last year. I think we did say that we were opening up, and we were opening up in a phased way, and that process continues. I made the point though in my opening statement that now is not the time to drop our guard, that COVID-19 is still with us. So whatever preventative measures or whatever policies are in place at manufacturing entities intended to provide for safety of all the workers, we would wish that those policies continue. We are not yet out of the woods. Indeed, if we listen to what is happening elsewhere in Europe, they are going through another serious wave of the coronavirus, including deaths. And we have to be mindful as we open up. Yes, we are accommodating some more risks. We are having a larger influx this year of persons. Thank God to date, we have been able to manage with that, but we must never transfer it. And because we say we are open up, it doesn't mean that we stop wearing our masks. Because we say we are opening up should not mean that we do not wash our hands and take the necessary safeguards and avoid crowds, particularly gatherings of persons unknown to us. In other words, we must ensure that we keep ourselves safe, we protect ourselves from infection. The COVID-19 pandemic lives on, and it's expected for some time in the future it will still be there.
Okay, Jackie, I think if I remember correctly, employees of manufacturing companies, once they go on the job in the mornings, they have to remain on the campus throughout the day, as opposed to going off for meals, etc. And that was, in vogue to protect that space, to reduce the risk of bringing in the virus into that setting, because in such settings you have hundreds of individuals working in close proximity of each other. And so, yes, we are opening, but I would still think that it's safer to continue with this protocol, because we still need to reduce the risk of bringing the virus into the manufacturing company, because it would be, serious if you have an outbreak in that setting.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
Just to add, all these restrictions can be reviewed.
Yes.
The higher our vaccination
Coverage,
rate gets. So if you have a plant with 100% vaccination, that is superb. And that particular situation, I'm sure, could be looked at. But we want across the country, in our jurisdiction, to have an extremely high vaccination rate. That allows us a greater assurance that we can reasonably prevent absurdities from happening should we release or ease upon some of the restrictions. So I would encourage that person who would have WhatsApped that message to try to encourage even more within your plan to become vaccinated and more persons in your community. And when we get to critical thresholds, all these, every restriction shall be reviewed in due course as we get closer to 100% vaccination. We have set 80 as the first critical target, and we're going to see, we outline about 5 to 6 critical areas where there will be changes and a relaxation. Certainly as we move beyond the 80, I suspect specific situations within plants, within communities will be reviewed again in a positive way.
Okay, and the final question from this individual, they would like a little clarification about, I think it's similar to what you responded to earlier about the quarantine criteria and period. So they're asking for clarification about fully vaccinated persons entering the airport and about the quarantine criteria, because someone told them that they heard once a person is fully vaccinated and took a test on the airport and your results were negative, you didn't have to quarantine. So could you clarify for that individual, please?
Okay, so currently, if you are an inbound traveler and you're fully vaccinated and you provided us with a negative RT-PCR test done within 72 hours of arrival, you can leave the airport, and then within the 24 hours you take that test in order for you to be allowed to integrate into the society. Now, you're only tested at the airport if that pre-arrival test is not is dated or it's old. It's older than 3 days. So that's the criteria for being tested at the airport currently. Yeah? But once your pre-arrival test is okay, you check through the health desk, immigration, customs, you leave the airport, and then you can access your 24 hours test externally. Either at the hotel where you're going, or if you're going into home quarantine, you go to either of the 3 designated sites to get your sample taken. Once your test is negative, you are released from quarantine. So that's what's in vogue currently.
Okay, thank you so much for providing clarity on that. We also have a question asking if the Comptroller of Customs could appear on the program sometime in the near future, but I think the Prime Minister did mention that. Yes. So we have a question asking if persons need a booster COVID shot, and any comments about the fact that America and Europe are encouraging people to do so.
Okay, so very good question. So the COVID-19 vaccine, it induces an immune response in the recipient. The science or the studies are now showing that this immunity decreases or wanes over time, especially in the context of the the variants in circulation. And so recently, the CDC and the FDA in the United States approved the Pfizer vaccine as the booster shot. So individuals who are 18 years and over, who would have received their primary vaccination series 6 months ago, they can come in and get that Pfizer booster shot. And I want to use this forum to say that here in the Federation, if you have received your primary vaccination series, most of us would have received the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. Those of you who received it early, 6 months ago, you can feel free to come into any of the health centers and you can voluntarily request the Pfizer booster shot. So again, I'll repeat, if you're 18 years and over and you would have received your primary vaccination series 6 months ago, you can voluntarily come into any of the health centers and easily request the Pfizer booster shot.
We have someone here who is quoting what they're saying is a comment made by the Deputy Prime Minister in 2012. I can't substantiate the validity of what the quote says, but I will ask their question, and they're basically asking, why are we building an embassy in Dubai? Why would the country want to do that? So, Mr. Prime Minister, could you comment?
Thank you very much, and it's an important question. 2012 and 2021 are not close, and the circumstances that pertain in 2012 are quite different in 2021. In 2021, we are at a position where we have a significant number of citizens residing in Dubai. Significant number. In fact, thousands of our citizens reside in Dubai. And so we have attempted always to establish embassies, and part of the services which they provide are consular services, outreach to our citizens, being able to provide them with information, being able to address matters of concerns to our citizens, and indeed to provide support to anyone wanting to have information regarding St. Kitts and Nevis. So there is a significant base of citizens requiring service, and the embassy will help in that regard. It also serves strategically to provide support to our citizenship by investment program, which is an active program which was intended to provide a pathway to bring investment resources in the country. And so this is critically important. When we look within the country, we see the tangible evidence. The Four Seasons residences, financing part through our citizenship program. The most high-end hotel on St. Kitts is the Park Hyatt, built through the CBI program. We have a 300-room facility, Ramada, in the St. Paul's area, built to the CBI program. We have a phase 2 of that project, another 300-room facility. Tourism has work to do to help in filling these facilities that has been built again to the CBI program. We have Dr. Ballantyne's project in Matinley, Bastia, again supported in part to the CBI program. Dubai provides an important hub within the Middle East region, and a relatively safe hub in which persons can transact business. So the embassy there now has become of strategic importance to the forward thrust of our CBI program. And one of the natural consequences of a CBI program has been that within the United Arab Emirates, a significant number, estimated at thousands of our citizens now reside, and they require services and support. And we believe that from them will come an important new wave of economic activity. And so the embassy is to help us to harness that, to let them know more about their country, invite them to come to the country, give us an additional pool of skilled professional people who could come back and do more. and persons of significant wealth to come back and help with the transformation of the country. So I think there are very good reasons for having an embassy in the Middle East, and we are happy at this time to have had it upgraded from what it was. In 2012, it was really a general consulate, and we have upgraded it far beyond that in status to an embassy for the reasons I've outlined and more. And it also shows the international reach which our country has taken on over the last, say, 9 to 10 years between 2012 and 2021. And it is a sign of our growing stature within the world that we have been able to open and advance our diplomatic footprint in concrete ways.
We have 3 more questions here. This one is for the superintendent. The person is asking, how well equipped are the police? Do they all carry a communicating radio like they do in the USA? Do they patrol by the 2? Do each patrol vehicle have a laptop computer? Do they patrol the countryside enough? You got all of that, Superintendent?
Well, I don't think we could compare our officers and the equipment with that of the US, who have much more resources. But yes, our officers do have radios when they are going out and patrol. They are required to work with radios. In fact, we are in the process of upgrading our current radio communication system, making it a more digital system, complete with GPS and all those good things. So yes, we are improving our communication systems. In terms of laptops in the vehicle, no, we do not have laptops in the vehicle, but we have the officers can use their own devices to access our databases, and the phone companies have granted us the privilege to zero rate these sites, and so it do not come with any cost to the officers. So they can access all our databases, our traffic database, our crime database, and so that they have those databases available to them in the vehicles.
We have 2 more questions. These are for the Prime Minister, and then we'll have closing presentations by the panelists. Mr. Prime Minister, this person is saying, it's been a year now for PEP/STEP workers, and Christmas is coming, still can't get a loan to buy a piece of land. When would the government take workers off that program, especially government workers who are in the STEP program? And secondly, can you please give an update on the package for auxiliary workers after working for government for a number of years? What are our benefits?
What I would say with respect to STEP, in our budget address, which will come around the middle of December, we will explain in greater detail, but the commitment has been that we will regularize the STEP workers. The methodology that would lead us there in 2022 will be outlined in the budget. We have adjusted that on several occasions, but in the budget we will perhaps be a bit more expansive in terms of the information provided. There will be no disadvantage to the STEP worker who meets the criteria for regularization. I want to make it clear very early and clearly that we will not be advancing workers on the STEP program who are not yet ready, who are not disciplined, who are not punctual, who are not prepared to give a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. That would add no value to the country. So we want people on the STEP program to become conscious. The STEP is not something, a program in which people just get money. The STEP is a program, like all programs, for which persons must give back in excellent service to their country, and that is a standard that we would set, and that will be one of the criteria. So we expect people to be punctual, to be on good behavior, and to work well if you are to be transferred into the permanent category. And all the benefits from being in that category, access, for example, to the government insurance scheme, access to a certain government pension and gratuity payments, and all the other benefits when you are sick, Those are taken care of within the framework of the program of insurance coverage we have with the National Insurance Company.
Auxiliary workers?
The auxiliary workers will be the same.
Okay.
Basically, all of them would be regularized. The auxiliary worker, I think, is still at an advantage over the STEP program in that they have part of a permanent framework of working within the government. They don't have the same, if you will, question mark or uncertainty regarding tenure. The major transformation for the auxiliary worker will perhaps be more clearer definition as to pension and those sorts of benefits that will come. For right now, I think every employee of the government, permanent employee, will have access to insurance. For example, you have your insurance card. Those things now will be, in a way, be standardized.
Thank you so much for that. So now we're going to have closing presentations by our special guests, and we're going to go in the reverse order of which we started, which means Superintendent Cromwell Henry, we begin with you.
Thank you, Jackie. I just want to thank all the persons who have contributed to this program through their questions or through their calls. I think, though, that what we want you to take away is that while the country is opening up slowly, we are still not out of the woods. We still have the threat of COVID. Persons are coming into the country daily, and there is that risk that the virus can come along with them. And so we want that while you are clamoring for these restrictions to be eased, that you not feel that we are totally out of the woods, and continue to comply or adhere to the non-pharmaceutical measures that we are all too aware of. Maintain your physical distance of 6 feet when you are in public. Avoid crowds or crowded places. Continue to practice good sanitization behavior, and wear your mask when you are in public. In terms of entertainment, we get a lot of questions as to when entertainment would be free to operate as they did pre-COVID. I don't think we're going to get to that anytime soon. We still have to open entertainment with some measure of caution, and so we ask that persons get themselves vaccinated, as we know that is what is going to keep you safe. And as you get vaccinated, as we have sufficient numbers of persons vaccinated, the target is 80% for now. We are at 79.7. We'll be able to have persons who are vaccinated attending more events and in greater numbers. So we want you to keep that in mind, that we are not out of the woods, continue to adhere to the protocols, and continue to act with great responsibility to keep all of us safe. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Superintendent of Police with the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, Cromwell Henry. We'll now hear from the Chief Executive Officer at the Tourism Authority, Raquel Brown.
I'd like to reiterate what Superintendent Cromwell Henry said. Without us having the measures and doing a phased approach, we wouldn't be where we are today. I've had the opportunity over the last few weeks when we've had an inaugural call to walk captains back to their ships, and including their first mates. And one of the things that they keep saying is that they understand when we explain what our vaccination rate is and why it is very important for us to do it. They've never said, oh, well, let's just, go ahead with it. They totally understand that we're going to have to live with COVID. But we have to have measures in place to make sure that tourism, cruise tourism, stayover tourism continues on the path. We saw over the first 15 months of this year just how catastrophic it is not to have tourism and travel, how much it affected so many people in St. Kitts and still affecting so many people in St. Kitts and worldwide. So we have to take these steps. It's not to restrict anyone. It's not to make anyone not have any income. It is a process so that we can reboot and we can continue to see growth, because the minute that we have a situation where cruise ships or visitors can't come by air, we're going to have a serious economic problem. So I seriously ask everyone to please remember the Tourism Authority is not here to make your lives difficult, but we're working with the task force, the CMO, the cabinet, the Prime Minister, Minister Grant, to ensure that we continue to have the rebuilding of tourism and it's done in a sustainable manner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown. We're now going to hear from the Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazel Laws.
We are approaching Christmas and we are all looking forward to the carnival celebrations. We will all be socializing. I want to use this forum to ask us to be intentional regarding what events we attend and participate in. Let us be wise and adhere to the COVID-19 control measures to ensure that we prevent a surge in early 2022. Let us continue on the path that we are on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laws. And we're now going to hear from Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, who brings you this program. Doctor.
Well, my words are words of thanks. Thanks to you for so ably presiding over the Leadership Matters, each edition for the last year. Thank you for doing an excellent job. And I am sure that among the toys that each of us, well, not toys, but the gifts that we are looking for Christmas will be something suitable to say thank you for a wonderful job over the last year. I want to, of course, thank the panelists, Dr. Hazel Laws, Ms. Raquel Brown, and Superintendent Henry for their contribution to tonight's edition of Leadership Matters. As always, it has been one of the best examples of democracy at work. People holding their government accountable, and government in the widest sense, not just ministers, but our CMO, our head of our tourism authority, our police, every functionary of the government being able to come and to defend and to answer questions and to promote the work that they are doing. This is healthy for democracy, and I'm happy for the opportunity to be part of it again tonight. Finally, to my beloved constituents, thank you very much for sticking with me. And even when I think I am deserving, you have been so kind and generous to me. So God bless you. God bless our country. And may we go from strength to strength. Let us consolidate and expand the gains. We must always be on a forward march, taking our country to higher and better place. And we must never drop our guard when we are in battle. We are in a real battle with the COVID-19, which so far has taken the life or has caused the death of about 28 of our residents here. One life lost is one life too many. So again, let us try to keep ourselves safe, be calm, be reasoned in our judgment. And to God we give thanks. Bless you.
Thank you so much. And I would just like to say that, as highlighted, it's been 1 year since I was approached about hosting this very important program. I was very intimidated at the start, Mr. Prime Minister, but I really appreciate your confidence in me to, maybe too much so. But I appreciate the confidence that you and your team had in me, that you will put such a very important program in my hands and allow me to moderate it. But I must say that every time I come here, I learn something, even as I did tonight. Look at the strides we're making and what's happening with tourism. When we consider what's happened over the past year, given the pandemic, you know, when I'm driving down from the Monkey Hill area, even up to this morning, my daughter was amazed. Just she's always in awe when she sees 3 ships in port, and we know that down at Port Zante was very quiet for a very long time. It's going to take some time to get back to where we are, but I appreciate having been here through that period of time, and now that we're coming out of it, I'm hoping that I will continue to learn, and I believe that. And I also appreciate the support I've been given from the panelists and the staff here at ZIZ, and Mr. Prime Minister, the people who listen and view this show. I have been blown away by the feedback I get off the program. I still can't believe how many people listen to this program. I think you have a very good idea. So when you tell people it's a popular program, you know exactly what you're talking about. And I want to thank each and every one of you who have taken it upon yourself to approach me and give me words of encouragement and tell me just what you think about the job I've been doing. I really appreciate it, and I want to use this opportunity to let you know I appreciate you and my family for all the support. So I look forward to coming back here before the end of the year.
Of course, our media platform have between 10 and 19,000 people tune into our program.
No pressure, guys.
So that has been the range.
We can be nervous now. Wow. It's absolutely incredible, But it means that people depend, sir, on this program to get information and answers. And so that is why I appreciate that when we get the questions, I can say that I don't think there's ever a question I've gotten that we've not taken. So I appreciate the experience that I've gotten while here. And having said that, I want to thank you so much for making the program what it was. I want to thank you for joining us, and I'm sure we'll be here again before the end of the year. And we're open to taking your questions and comments at that time. Enjoy the rest of your evening.